Welcome back to Tipsy Tuesday with Team Whiff. I'm Tiff, and that's Will, and we've been living aboard in Florida for about 4 years now. And we've had some really stressful insurance situations, and we've made some mistakes. So we wanted to share those mishaps with you so that you don't make those mistakes. Let's dive in. So our first boat was a 51-foot blue water coastal cruiser, and it was literally our first boat, like the first boat we ever owned. And we bought it in May of 2016, and we insured it for what's called the declared agreed upon value. And it was somewhere between the purchase price and what the market value was for the boat. So we were relatively inexperienced boaters at that point. I mean, we certainly never owned or operated a boat that was that big. And we bought it primarily as just a floating home with no intentions of really going far and wide with it. And so our insurance required us to take captain lessons, which had a list of requirements that the captain needed to teach us and sign off on. And he also had to be listed as an additional insured on the actual policy. And that was about it. That was enough to insure two unexperienced newbie boaters with a 51-foot boat.
No big.
So after that, everything was pretty much good from there. We didn't even get a survey. They actually accepted the survey that was from 2 years prior, which apparently was a good enough indicator of the boat's condition. The seller really wasn't cooperative when we mentioned the survey. It's like he almost wanted to walk away from our offer when we mentioned it. And it was like a weird divorce distress sale, but it was a good deal, and we felt safe enough to go ahead and go through with the deal and prepared to handle whatever came up with it. So
yeah, we don't recommend that you go without a survey, but we also don't consider us going without a survey as a mistake, if that makes sense. We were just, like she said, we were prepared to own whatever happened. But most insurance companies, they won't take a survey unless it's in your name. So the fact that we took a previous survey in someone else's name is unusual, I guess. That's not common. I want to address a separate issue really quick. Like we said earlier, the seller pretty much bullied us into buying the boat without a survey is how it went down. And I often read comments on the internet that say things like, oh man, buying a boat with a broker, it was an awful experience dealing with that broker. Brokers, they sell lemons, they eat babies, they ruin lives. They are scum of the earth. That's pretty much how it reads. But in my experience, being a broker and hearing some of the things that sellers say and having to mitigate some of the things that sellers have said, that I'm pretty much baffled that the brokers take the brunt of the bashing in the comment sections, because like I said, some of the things that I've had to pretty much step in front of to stop have been insane and almost like borderline criminal. But at the same time, I understand that there's only 3 states to my knowledge where you are required to be licensed. Florida is one of them, and California being another. And I know that Maryland requires like a dealer's license of some sort. And there may be others, but those are the only ones that I'm aware of. So I understand that in a lot of the other states, any pawn shop owner or person who's wearing a polo shirt can call themselves a yacht broker. But in states where there are licenses, there's also standardized practices. There's certain processes that we all go through, and there's repercussions and consequences for being shady and dishonest. So with that said, I was obviously a broker for a couple of years, and I truly never really had or experienced any of those unhappy sentiments that I see on the internet within my office, which was a pretty big and busy one of almost 70 brokers in this region. So there was very little of that, and that's why I say that I was surprised about. That's why I say I was surprised. But I could literally do a multi-video segment where I provide expert tips to help you buy or sell your boat privately or with a broker with complete confidence. I could give you the good, the bad, and the downright ugly of the industry, and I will be almost completely unbiased because I have absolutely no agenda other than providing, helpful tips to those who could use it. I'm not selling your boat. You heard what I said earlier. The only thing is that it will be a complete deviation from the type of content that we currently provide and have lined up. So if that's something that you all wanted to see, I would have to be convinced that I'm not talking to myself. How can you do that? Well, let's just say that 300 likes on this video will be a good start.
All right, can we get back on track now?
Yeah, you certainly can.
Thanks. Alright, so our first year was pretty much uneventful until it became time for renewal. So about a month and a half before renewal was up, we started contacting multiple agencies to get quotes. They all require different paperwork and different stipulations and different hoops to jump through, and each hoop requires an extra 3 days for a response. So takeaway number 1 is give yourself plenty of time. I mean, we started about 3 months ahead of this renewal, and with Whippersnapper, we ended up just renewing with the same policy we already had because it was easiest and the best price. Okay, so there was one problem, and it was that there was a named storm in the ocean, and the insurance wouldn't bind any new policies during that time. So, I repeat, even if you're just trying to renew with your current insurance, they won't do it if there's a named storm in your area. And so it forced us to become uninsured liveaboards with a lapse of insurance in the middle of freaking hurricane season. And it was, yeah, it was frightening and frustrating. We didn't even do anything wrong. We didn't even wait till the last minute. It was really the opposite. I mean, we had been preparing long before we needed to decide. You can't even get quotes much sooner than what we had been preparing. So to make matters worse, the named storm was Irma, and she was heading right to Florida where we were. So we evacuated pretty early, and we wanted to get ahead of the mass chaos of evacuations. And so we watched our little hourly updates and saw that the track landfall was headed directly for where the boat was. And it was awful. I mean, it was so stressful just to watch the storm come towards your uninsured floating home. I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah, I'm sitting here just like,
goosebumps.
just listening to the story. It's like I feel it all over again.
It's terrible. Ugh.
We were very fortunate that there was no real damage. We lost the cushion, but that was actually recovered. There was also a slight bend in one of our props because when all the water drained out of the Estero Bay, we landed on an oyster there, we believe, and that bent the prop just ever so slightly. So takeaway number 2, I consider to be the biggest one of all, and that is if you can avoid it, do not have your insurance policy start during hurricane season if you're in the tropics or plan to be there. After Irma passed and all that was left was her destruction, they were finally willing and able to take our money for yet another year, since our boat survived and all. They wanted a survey within a certain period of time, but we actually fought for a deadline extension because we knew that there was so much work that we wanted to do in a short period of time, and we wanted that to be factored into the most current survey. Which brings us to takeaway number 3. If you need more time, file for a deadline extension. In our experience, they were very understanding, and especially if you had a good reason to, the only thing that they wanted from us was just a general timeline of when we plan to accomplish each project. We actually ended up selling that boat a few months later, so the survey never happened. FYI, we sold that boat for profit actually. We got full asking price and we closed within 6 weeks. Can you guess who the broker was? Anyways, fast forward to our second boat, which we just so happened to get at a really great price.
Let me guess, that was because I broke her again.
I mean, she's not wrong. When you're good, you're good. Well, I mean, the timing was good. We got extremely lucky on that deal. We'll talk more about it in this video here, which is the buying process of us buying this boat. That was sweet and all, but there was just one big downside. The purchase price was historically low. I know that doesn't sound like a downside, but when we went to the insurance companies and we wanted to insure for market value, they were like, wait. Yeah, no. I'm sorry. This time we had a current survey, and the boat didn't fail survey with any major issues, but there was just so many minor issues that they weren't comfortable insuring the boat for more than what we paid for it. So what does that mean? It means that we were now extremely underinsured, and we currently are until this day. And if we take damage from a named storm, the deductible gets much higher. So all in all, we would be taking a pretty big hit if something were to happen, especially during a storm. So takeaway number 4 is don't go underinsured. It provides zero peace of mind. I know whenever something bad happens to a boat, the internet trolls and everyone's go-to is, oh, insurance claim. They're just trying to get an insurance claim. Well, I can tell you this with the utmost certainty. If something happens to our boat between now and April, it's not a payday. It's not a payday. We are taking a serious loss. So we're due for another survey anyways whenever our policy is up come April, and we're due for renewal. And we've pretty much addressed everything from our old survey and then some. So we shouldn't have any issues getting market value for the boat come spring. Now I know I said this earlier, but it should also be a takeaway. So takeaway number 5 is make sure you get your boat surveyed in the best condition possible whenever you can.
So the way insurance premium prices are nowadays, we want it all when it comes to our boat's value. So takeaway number 6 is weigh all of your options before deciding whether it's market value or declared value that you go with. And living aboard is, I wouldn't say more difficult, but it's definitely a curveball for the insurance agencies. So takeaway number 7 is be familiar with what's actually considered a liveaboard or a cruiser. And some states define it differently. Even marinas define it differently. So know what's legally defined as being a liveaboard and make sure you're properly insured and covered, but not enduring unnecessary hardships in getting insurance.
When it comes to insurance, it seems like there's no rate caps. I've heard of people having policies from a few $100s to some having them upwards of $20,000. And many places require that annual payment, to be up front. So be prepared to drop some serious coin whenever you're purchasing your boat on an insurance policy. Most marinas also require a certain amount of liability. Some even want to be named as additionally insured on your policy, so it's best to know what marina is going to be your home base beforehand if you can, or go on the high side of liability. I've seen some that require $300,000 as a liability, but I think that $1 million is pretty safe and should get you at the majority of nice marinas.
Yeah. And policies are cleverly written, so it makes you leave you wondering, what the hell am I covered for? It doesn't sound like coverage to me. So understand your policies and your coverage and where you can travel, what your limits are. Learn the restrictions and the special circumstances that affect your policy.
Yeah. So that's going to be it for our insurance mishaps. Hopefully someone can learn from our mistakes and not do the same thing that we did. I'm still compiling that list of all the insurance companies, agencies, and I'm also going to go over some common myths when it comes to providing insurance. Now, since we obviously aren't experts on that topic, I think I'm going to enlist the help of several.
So, as I mentioned in a previous Tipsy Tuesday video, insurance is one of the most frustrating things when it comes to living aboard. And at its best, even when all things go well, it's still frustrating. Insurance agents are spreading some misinformation about the industry and what restrictions there are, and it's affecting people's life decisions about what boats to buy, and it really just doesn't sit well with us.
Anyone who makes the process of getting out on the water harder or even seem unobtainable, you're no friend to team with, and we just may call you out on it. These companies have no business speaking as if they represent the entire insurance industry, but that's kind of how they represent themselves when they're talking about their risk parameters, because those risk parameters that they go through may not be what other agencies have, but that's kind of how they talk. They love doing that. We've had subscribers tell us that happened to them, and we've even had it whenever we've gotten certain quotes from different agencies. So there will be a second video on the topic of insurance. It may not be next week because as we speak, we're just as busy now as we were back in the boatyard in July. The first video from the boatyard is actually going to be out this Sunday, by the way. So if you want to get notifications for these videos when they come out, we invite you to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you do, make sure you click the bell notification so you know when these videos are released.
Alright, until next time, remember that sometimes the best self-care is out there. So get out.
Yeah, and get lost. Couple days with the captain, y'all good? So.
I know. Mosquito.
Oh, hell no. This is going to be quick.
There's multiple.
If you see a mosquito, let it land on my head, will you? Okay. What do you think about slapping me? She's like, this is my chance. But I gave that.
Give it up.
Nah.
Just believe him.
Okay.
You give it up.
Yeah, that's it.
I got one.
How's it feel?
Good. Yeah. So understand your policies and your coverage and what areas you're covered to travel in, and just learn the restrictions and the special circumstances
Literally every speckle on that thing.
that affects your policy.
Policy with too many speckles?
No. Just say no. Alright, so until next time, remember that. What are we remembering?
Don't you forget it.
Alright, so until next time, remember that. Why can't I remember what we're saying?
Because you're a hypocrite.
Alright, so until next time, remember that the best self-care is out there. So what are we doing? So get out!
I forgot what we're doing. Okay, yes.
What are you doing?
You said get out.
Oh.
You screamed it at me.
Oh, sorry. Alright, so remember, what are we doing? Don't roll your eyes at me.
I'm taking you in.
It's always the last.